Hello there and welcome to VGC. My name is Chris Scullion. Recently Capcom gave us a new look at some Resident Evil 4 remake footage, particularly some footage that appears a little bit later on in the game, and allowed us to kind of chop the footage together and show you a kind of highlights package of what we were showing. So with that in mind, let's just take a look at some of that footage. First up, there's some combat footage here which you can see, showing some of the kind of in-game gunplay in action. As you can see, you can kind of take out enemies' legs and stuff to stun them a little, and kind of run up and melee attack them. The knife now can be used for a kind of parry type move. So sometimes when an enemy attacks you, if you use your knife at exactly the right point, you can kind of deflect their attack and leave them kind of open to attack. Obviously, as in the original game, these enemies have been infected with a kind of parasite, and as you attack the kind of human body, the parasite's body comes out and attacks you more, and at that point they become more powerful. So that's kind of a look at some of the combat. They also briefly showed some of the blue flyers that can now be found dotted about, and these are kind of side quests. And from what we've read in kind of previous previews about the game, these side quests are in these blue flyers, and there's a load of kind of different ones. So one of them is examples that we've seen in the past are delivering the carcasses of 3 snakes and tracking down an infected dog and killing it. And the blue medallion quest from the first game is now like a blue flyer side quest. And every time you complete one, the merchant rewards you. Speaking of the merchant, you get to see some of the kind of gun enhancement stuff, where you can basically upgrade your weapon and add various modifications to increase its capabilities. They also showed us some of the kind of the typical what you buy and what you sell and stuff, including the return of the elegant mask, which was in the original. This mask can be sold for a kind of small amount of money, but if you can find the red, blue and yellow gems, or any kind of coloured gems and put them in the mask, you can then trade it in for a much higher price, which is quite cool. We also saw a bit of the weapon storage system, which in some way is similar to the GameCube version and the previous versions, in that it's still a grid-based inventory system, and you have to arrange the items and weapons in a way that they all fit in. But you can also now kind of customise your case, and change its colour or add like a charm. You can see like a chicken charm that can dangle off the side of it, for example. And these aren't just for cosmetic reasons, because obviously you're rarely going to see them during the game. They add extra effects and extra power-ups. So like one of them may increase the potency of any kind of health packs you might use. We were also shown some footage involving Ashley, who accompanies Leon later in the game. You can control Ashley by using, not directly at some points, like at times she'll kind of follow you from behind, almost like an escort mission, but you can at least control how closely she follows you. In the bottom right corner you can see a kind of icon, and that can change between tight and loose, and that's how closely she sticks to you. So obviously if it's tight, she'll stick quite close to you and not stray too much, but if you change that to loose, she can distance herself and go hiding and stuff like that. So that's how the player gets some degree of control over where Ashley is at least positioned. This is obviously useful if, for example, you're facing off against a particularly dangerous enemy, and you don't want her nearby in case she takes a hit. You can tell her to kind of stand back while you deal with it, as you can see here. And then obviously if you want her closer to you for other situations, that can be done as well. We also get to see a bit more combat against the enemies with the kind of flaming arrows and the catapults. You can see that you can use your sniper rifle to take down some of them at a distance. Like the sniper rifle works exactly how a sniper rifle would work in any other kind of action game. And you can also attack them with kind of flash grenades at times to daze them temporarily, and so you can then run up and melee attack them. You can also melee attack them with your knife, as you can see here. Ashley can also get captured at times by enemies. You can see if you don't see it happening on screen, you'll see a little red icon in the bottom right where it says help, and if she gets carried too far away, then it's game over, so you basically have to rescue her as soon as you can. Similarly, if Ashley takes too much damage, she'll get knocked down, and the little icon will say incapacitated and flash orange, and you need to rescue her kind of quickly at that point. If you don't, the enemies will aim for her, and again, if she takes too much damage, game over. We were also shown some footage inside Ramon Salazar's castle, with including footage of Ashley getting captured yet again. Like, she must have shoulders of steel the amount of times she keeps dropping on the floor. And more combat was shown, little more kind of examples of the knife parry in action. It looks a lot more fluid, the combat, and like there's a lot more. The parry and the knife parry system looks like it's going to come into play quite heavily, meaning that the game should have an interesting kind of different feel to some extent to the original Resident Evil 4. Next we were shown a fight against the Garrador, a big giant enemy with big massive claws who you find in a dungeon at one point. And the Garrador is massive and does a hell of a lot of damage, but can't see that well, so you have to stay quiet to ensure that it can't see you. And as long as you stay quiet, you can kind of sneak up behind him. The parry apparently also works for his big claw attacks. Even though they're quite powerful, you can still parry them away with a knife. So if there are times where it looks like you're stuffed and he's going to absolutely demolish you, you can still have a chance to parry away his attack and kind of save yourself taking too much damage. And finally, at the end of the footage, we were shown a brief segment of the fight with Jack Krauser, which in the original game was purely done with QTEs, so there wasn't really a lot of interactivity short of pressing whatever buttons came up, but now you can actually play the knife fight yourself, and if you don't think knife parries come into it, then you obviously haven't been paying attention in this video, because knife parries come into everything. So yeah, it looks a lot better, a lot more interactive, because you're actually taking part in the fight this time now instead of just sitting there and waiting to press the buttons. So that looks like another kind of massive improvement this time over the original, which was already fantastic. And that's it. That's just a kind of brief glimpse at kind of sections later on in Resident Evil 4 to give you more of an example of how the game looks beyond the usual stuff you see with the village at the start. Hopefully you'll agree that it's looking really pretty special so far, and we're really interested to see how the entire game plays out in its entirety when we get it pretty soon. So keep an eye out on VGC for the full review as obviously the release date nears, and do the usual YouTube like and subscribe, and you know how it works. And until then, catch you later. Thanks guys, bye bye.